Hello, it's another time on Indigenous Hands, the Indigenous Voices, which is brought to you by Save the Deaf and Endangered Languages Initiative. I'm glad to be with you again this week as we continue our discussion on the sign languages in African deaf communities. This is the volume 3 of the topic, Sign Languages in Africa. Just know that my focus is the indigenous sign languages, even though I, in this discussion, bring about the other varieties of sign languages as they are in different African countries that we are going to be looking at. Today, I want to discuss Gabon, which we call sometimes Gabon. Gabon is a country in Africa. We want to look at the sign language situation in Gabon. I wouldn't have discussed Gabon today because it is not one of the earlier countries that happened to witness the work of Dr. Andrew Foster, but I decided to try to run it a little bit alphabetically, even though I didn't follow it that way. Because I discussed Ghana last week. So once again in our discussion, we want to talk about another African country and what sign language situation we can see there. Sit tight as we roll together in today's discussion. All right, Gabon. It is true that we have not come across any literature that specifically mentions Gabon in the historical account of sign languages in Africa. Yet we believe that if there were indigenous deaf communities in the pre-colonial times in Gabon, there would have been sign languages in use in that country. And this is so important because we know that in this discussion we have continuously traced the origin and development of sign languages in different African countries beyond the colonial times. So why are we interested in Gabon today? We are interested in Gabon because Gabon is one of the Francophone or French-speaking countries in Africa that benefited from the work of Dr. Andrew Foster. Remember last week I told you that even though I am not discussing Andrew Foster, but he seems to form an era within which we discuss sign languages in Africa. So there's no way I will not, continue to mention Dr. Andrew Foster, which every scholar in sign languages in Africa knows that. All right. Other countries that are Francophone countries that benefited from the work of Dr. Andrew Foster include the Republic of Benin, which we also call Republic of Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Burundi, Cameroon. Remember here I'm talking about the French-speaking Cameroon, DRC, which is Democratic Republic of Congo, Senegal, and Togo. These other countries saw the work of Dr. Andrew Foster. But why are we interested in Gabon today? First of all, just to give you a little bit of a history or a little bit of a background of Gabon. Gabon is an African country that gained independence in 1960. Specifically August 17, 1960, a few months before the independence of Nigeria. And Gabon is one of the African countries that had gained independence prior to the visit of Dr. Foster. unlike Ghana and Nigeria that Dr. Foster visited during their independence year. Gabon gained independence in 1960, and Dr. Foster's work manifested in that country around 1981. So it is about the countries that saw the latter days of the work of Dr. Andrew Foster. So because of that, we have established that it is our belief that so long as there were deaf communities, indigenous deaf communities, back in history in Gabon, there were sign languages in use. And because there were sign languages in use, they were indigenous sign languages. So by the time Dr. Andrew Foster must have established a school in Gabon, it changed the dynamics of sign language over there. So today, it is believed that despite the official spoken language, that is French in Gabon, American Sign Language is believed to be influential today in Gabonese sign language situation. This is after the School for the Deaf in Gabon has been established. This is after Dr. Foster had helped to train some deaf scholars who became influential, who got educated in that country. Literature has it today that American Sign Language has influence in the country's sign language situation, has influence in the country's deaf community, and in the country in general. Although Kemei 2006 believes that the contact between American Sign Language and the spoken French, and of course the literacy materials in French language, both of which are used in schools, must have given rise to a sign language system that is tagged Langue de Signes Franco-Africaine. Langue de Signes Franco-Africaine, which is, in other words, sign languages of Francophone speaking, Francophone African countries. This variety of sign language may have been given birth by the language contact between spoken French and the American Sign Language that started being in use during the time of Dr. Andrew Foster. I want to recollect that I mentioned towards the end of my video last week that I understand that Dr. Andrew Foster understood the importance of communication, the importance of language amongst deaf people in Africa that he came to teach. I will tell you as time goes on why I said that. I possibly might continue to mention it until the day I'm going to tell you why I said that. Now, upon all this, anecdotally today, we hear that there are 3 sign languages in use across Gabon. The indigenous Gabonese Sign Language, possibly, American Sign Language, and the LSF, which is the French Sign Language. Now, what we have not resolved in this claim is whether the ASL and LSF have come to produce the sign language variety that Kemei 2006 mentioned in his work. That is the abridged, or rather, that is the hybrid form of American Sign Language. I may not have specifically observed the sign language variety in Gabon when it is in use, but I would not think it is totally going to be totally different from the kind of hybrid sign language that has occurred in some other countries that Dr. Foster visited over the period of his work. So looking at the possible existence of indigenous African Sign Language, indigenous Gabonese Sign Language, until the time of visit of Dr. Andrew Foster. And there came a sign language that is regarded as a hybrid of ASL and French spoken language, which may have resulted in a new dynamic in sign language use in that country today. We have a question. Going also by what we hear anecdotally, that deaf education until today stops in elementary school in Gabon. Deaf people do not go beyond elementary school. The question we are asking is, what is the future of deaf literacy in Gabon? Being a country where French is spoken, where American Sign Language is said to be in use amongst deaf people, deaf children, deaf students, where some rural communities possibly still use some variety of indigenous sign languages, we wonder what the future of deaf literacy is in that country. If we go by the methodical premise, the methodical idea that deaf literacy and the literacy in general is most efficient when it happens in an indigenous language, when it happens in the language of the immediate environment of a child, whether deaf or hearing. Okay, I'd like you to go home with that question today. What is the future of deaf literacy in Gabon? If there are possibly 3 sign languages in use, or if there is a sign language that is regarded indigenous and a hybrid sign language made up of American Sign Language and French spoken language. And we know that sign language has not been officially recognized in that country. But one thing that is so disheartening to us is to hear that deaf education still ends in elementary school. And we continue to wonder how deaf people cope after that. We are going to continue to get more facts about sign language situation in Gabon. Until then, we will continue to discuss other countries where sign language situations need some attention, other African countries. Until then, we encourage you to meet us here every week as we want to continue to do this, and to do this. And please share our videos and stay safe until I see you next week. Bye-bye.